Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer. And one thing that I need to ask my audience out there is to make sure that you visit cobrt.com. We have a lot of events coming your way in the next couple of months, so be sure to check out our events page. And one of those events is happening this Wednesday on August 7th. We are having Judith Pryor, who is a member of the board of directors for the Export-Import Bank of the U.S., joining us. We are going to have a panel talking about Small Business Exporter Forum is what that is called. And again, that is this Wednesday, August 7th, and we're very excited. We're going to have some panelists from the Small Business Administration as well as the U.S. Commercial Services. So exciting stuff. And I have joining me by phone right now, Judith Pryor. How are you?
Hi, Alex. I'm great today. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So lots of interesting stuff in the export-import world. But one of the things that you guys do best is working with the small to medium businesses. And you are doing sort of a tour throughout the United States for having these small business exporter forums. And I would love to get some details on that and more that we can find out. But before I do that, one thing that I make everybody do when they get into the hot seat in my studio is talk a little bit about themselves. So ultimately, why you ended up as a member of the board of directors for EXIM.
Alex, thanks for that question. I can give you a little bit of background on me. I'm pretty boring, but basically, I've been in the private sector for 30 plus years, and then in let's see, maybe 2010, I came out of the satellite industry, so satellite communications, satellite radio, working in international markets, helping startup businesses on the African continent in places like India, Indonesia, Singapore, really in the communications and marketing and consulting, corporate affairs field, business development, if you will. I spent 6 years at OPIC, about 6.5 years actually, during the Obama administration as the vice president for external affairs. And part of my work there was overseeing our small business outreach and development. So fast forward, if you will, to EXIM, to the Export-Import Bank of the United States, and what better way to start? We've been here. Our chairman likes to say, I think it's been 90 days now that we've all been on board. So we've tried to hit the ground running, and of course, one of the most important aspects of what we do is making sure that American businesses, American small businesses, know and understand how the Export-Import Bank of the United States can help them expand overseas, sell their products and services to, burgeoning markets outside the U.S. One of the things that is often, overlooked is that 95% of consumers live outside of the United States borders.
What?
That's a lot of people that are looking to buy a lot of goods and services. So it will be really fun to be at the bank. As you said, we're going to go on this small business tour around the country, and I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, I'm starting in Denver, so my fellow board member will be in Iowa. I'm not sure where, the same week as me, but I'm coming to Denver, and I'm really looking forward to it. And promise you won't hold it against me if I tell you that it will be the first time I've ever been in Denver.
I won't hold it against you, but there are lots of things that I need you to put on your itinerary while you're out here.
All right, I'll see if I can do that. And I guess I sort of avoided your background question a little bit. So if you'd like, I can just give you a little bit more detail on what got me to Washington, D.C., perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in a very small suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. A hotbed of manufacturing, certainly in the 60s when I was born, and even into the 70s. And then that whole part of our country just really was devastated, and so we're looking to get what has unfortunately been dubbed the Rust Belt back up and running. So I hope to see that happen soon. But that's where I was born, and I went to college in Ohio as well at Bowling Green State University, which is in the northwest part of the state near Toledo and the Indiana border. It was fun. And what really triggered my interest in international markets was a semester abroad that I did in college my junior year in Madrid, Spain. And I thought, oh, this is, first of all, it's fascinating, a different culture, different people, different world, if you will, certainly back in the early 80s. And I just so enjoyed it, and so it so broadened my horizons that I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to try to explore a career in international business. So fast forward, I graduated from college. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, and as part of a national student advertising competition, of all things, I was part of the team that pitched the business. We won our district championships, and the finals were in Washington, D.C. So I graduated in May. We were here in June for this competition. We didn't win the competition, but I never left Washington. And literally, I slept on a friend's couch, and 2 months later, I was back here, had my first job, and never left. So that's how I ended up in Washington. And then even though in Washington, people think of very much as being, a company town, if you will, all government all the time. My first 30 or so years here, 25 years, were spent working in the private sector. So I did not work for government until I went to the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. So full circle, you bring all your life experience and the people that you meet, the relationships you forge, the places that you've been, and you kind of bring it all together, and it's culminated in what I promise you. If someone said, give me the top 20 things you want to do for your next step, being a board member at the Export-Import Bank would never have even crossed my mind. But I will tell you, I am so very honored to have been selected, nominated, voted on by the Senate, and to be on board to help the mission of this bank, which is truly, truly a great mission of helping U.S. businesses succeed abroad.
Which is such a fascinating field of thought to begin with. So I kind of want to start a little bit basic. And one of the things, we've thrown around the term small business a lot. So do you mind defining what a small business versus a medium business versus a large business is?
Sure. So we follow the SBA's definition for small. I think it's less than 500 employees, and I'm not quite off the top of my head. I can't remember what the dollar amount, the annual revenue number is, but it's that combination. So, like the rest of government, we really look to our friends at the SBA to guide us in putting that number forward. Beyond that, here at EXIM, if you don't fall into that small business category, you fall into one of the other categories, but it actually doesn't really matter. Like I said earlier, we want to help any U.S. businesses, large or small. It could be 500 employees. It could be 5 employees. In fact, this project that we just voted on yesterday at our board meeting is in Cameroon with a New Jersey small business, Hoffman Incorporated. I think they have maybe less than 100 employees, and this project it's a preliminary commitment, so they'll be coming back to us, but it enables them to bid on a project in Cameroon that will enable them to re-engage a number of folks, their international arm, which will be, they'll be able to hire about 15 or 20 people to work this international project, and that's 20% of their workforce, or an additional 20% on top of their workforce. So large or small, we are here to help. Size does not really matter, but there are specific products that are just designed for what we call short-term support, and those are primarily with U.S. small businesses. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, and that's what we'll be talking about next week when I'm in Denver for the Small Business Forum.
Yes, absolutely. And that is really exciting. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we do with this roundtable is we're getting the right people in the room together to ensure that they are opening up themselves to the right market, correct?
There will be, this panel, this will be my first one for EXIM, so much like you, Alex, I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say and learning from the experts, the people that are in the field, that are working with the customers, that are really know the bank's products, SBA's products, the commerce representatives, know this inside and out, local stakeholders. So I, like you, am a little bit going to be in learning mode. As I mentioned, I'm 90 days on the job, and I've got a lot to learn. I was in a sister agency for 6.5 years before that, and we used to do small business workshops as well, and always included our sister agencies as well. So EXIM would be their SBA, and so you learn a little bit there, and really we're there to guide the exporter. You tell us what your situation is, what your issue or concern is, what you want to do, and then this panel will be able to direct you to the right person to speak with. Joining me will be our regional director, Kelly Kemp, and Kelly has been with EXIM Bank for quite a long time, so he's seen it all, and I'm very much looking forward to having him there and to helping U.S. small businesses and exporters figure out what it is they need to know about moving forward in the international arena.
Awesome. So I first of all, congratulations. You've only been on the job for 90 days, as you've stated, and they're throwing you right to the lions. They're sending you right out all across the country, not with a lack of experience, but I imagine that this tour, if you will get you quite a few places to give you knowledge, regionally speaking, from a global to a local perspective.
Right.
That being said, I would like to talk a little bit globally here. What's going on with EXIM? What kind of things are you seeing on a global level? And then how do you want to tailor what you've seen to the Denver market?
Our mission, EXIM's mission, is to help U.S. businesses compete fairly in the international marketplace, and ultimately to support U.S. job growth. Right. That is our. It's a simple mission. We are here to support U.S. job growth through exports. Globally, we're open in most markets. We have quite an active small business portfolio. In fact, 90% of the transactions that we do in any given year, Alex, certainly in the last few, has been with the small business community. In the last decade, EXIM has supported nearly 2 million jobs in all 50 states.
Wow.
And last year, we did about $2 billion in authorized transactions with just the small business community. So that just gives you a sense of sort of the depth, the breadth, and scope of our work with small businesses. It really is our sweet spot, and we really know that small businesses need to be supported as best they can. If you're a company here in the United States and you manufacture a widget, and you've got some good buyers, and you sell to maybe a tri-state or a quad-state area, or frankly anywhere in the continental United States, maybe even Canada. And then you get a call because someone saw your product and now they want to start selling it in Brazil or in Turkey or one of these other markets, but you don't have staff there, you don't have lawyers there, you've never been there perhaps. How are you going to be secure that in knowing that you're going to get paid for that product. And do you always want to ask for cash in advance? And some people don't want to do that anymore. So how are you protected? And that's where EXIM can really help step in and help protect you as an export through our short-term credit insurance programs. So that's just one example. I know we'll talk a lot more about that in Denver, but it really is something to think about. You know, we do have a broad reach. Small business is our sweet spot. We've spent quite a bit of time. We have a great staff and a great team of folks that are focused on the small businesses throughout the United States, helping them, letting them even know that we're here. You know, that's sometimes the hardest thing is making sure that business is even aware that EXIM is there to help. So yes, so starting in Denver, going around the country, meeting with small businesses, holding roundtables, meeting with exporters. We are ready to get started again.
That is awesome to hear. And I know that Denver is used to being a guinea pig for a lot of experiments, so we're happy to be a guinea pig for you in this instance as well. Let me ask you, what kind of goals are you hoping to get from this tour? I mean, obviously, anyone that is getting better business skills and improving and growing their businesses is, I'm sure, a good check mark for you to have. But do you have any tangible goals for EXIM as you go through and tailor these roundtables better and better?
Sure. Look, I would just say that our number one goal is to spread the word, and not only just meeting with exporters through events like this Small Business Forum in Denver, but meeting with folks in Denver who are looking at the international communities or working with them. You know, if there are World Trade Centers in your town, for example, I was just in Tampa. My first trip with It was my first trip with EXIM. I went to Tampa. I met our regional director who's based in Miami. She was going up to Tampa to train a bank who was very interested in helping EXIM, to meet with exporters who were already customers, to meet with a broker that was working with us, and then to go on a new business trip with her, you know, site visit, to meet with a potential new client. It was an educational opportunity for me. I'm so glad that I was afforded that opportunity to go with her. She's been with the bank for over 20 years, so she really knows her stuff. Many people, in fact, have been with the bank for that period of time. I mean, they really are passionate about their work and know what they're doing. But I think I bring that up as an example because honestly, the number one goal of all this activity is to spread the word that we can help, that EXIM is open for business, that small businesses need not try to go it alone internationally. It's important, and you know, our goal at the end of the day is to promote Made in America products, right? We are all about exports. U.S. companies have some of the best products in the world, and we know that when they compete head-to-head with other countries' products for service contracts, we're going to win.
Well said. Thank you, Judith. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the things, we have roughly 5 minutes left here in this segment, but I want to let you explain a little bit, because I know I asked you before we started here if you have industry-specific entities that you work with, and what you told me was that any small business, any medium business, you're a little bit demand-driven. So that being said, the people that should be attending these forums throughout the United States, and especially here in Denver, they don't need to be industry specific. Explain that a little bit for me, please.
Right. So, yes, we were talking a little bit about that earlier, Alex. You're right. And I guess it's just important to note, if for whoever's listening, if you're an expert and you think, well, I don't even know, maybe they don't cover my industry, or maybe they're not interested in helping me with my product, our doors are open. We're demand-driven in the sense that some of the larger projects that come to us, they know we're here. They often need the U.S. government's export credit agency to back them as they're going into markets to bid on projects. The small businesses here in the United States, we are certainly demand-driven. Our doors are open to anyone. There is no project that's too large or too small. We have products and services that can accommodate very small, one country, an exporter who's just merely going to one country, or a single buyer, to multi-buyers, to working capital that we can provide them with to help them meet an order, fulfill an order, working with a bank. There's a number of different tools and products that we offer, but at the end of the day, our doors are open to anyone. We don't discriminate based on industry, sector, region, nothing. So we are here to help. We are a government agency, and I think that's important to remember. We're a government agency, but I like to think that we're agile and quick and can think on our feet, and we're customer-driven, which is a little bit different than when you think of most government agencies. They're there to fit a bill, or not so much provide a service to U.S. taxpayers. So EXIM is very unique in that regard, and we are here to help U.S. businesses export their goods and service, which in turn generates jobs here at home.
Absolutely. And agile is not a term that I have necessarily used with a government entity, so that was nice and refreshing to hear that term. Just in the last few minutes here, Judith, any personal goals for you? As you said, you've been there about 90 days. You got a little bit of traveling under your belt. You obviously have worked with the international markets quite a bit, so this is definitely not your first foray into that. But any personal goals that you have while you're at EXIM and doing this tour, what would you like to see? Is there any certain, when you, as a teacher, sometimes you want to come across that student that really needs help and you make a difference in their life? Is there anything like that for you as far as EXIM is concerned in going on this tour, or meeting with any, your day-to-day perhaps with EXIM?
Actually, Alex, there is. But one thing I'd like to say before I talk about sort of my personal goals is, one thing I'd love for your listeners to hear, which they may not know, and this is just an interesting tidbit about the Export-Import Bank of the United States.
Yeah, please.
Since the year 2000, the bank has contributed nearly $15 billion to reduce the deficit. Okay, so when you think government, you think spending, but when you think EXIM, what you need to think is, wow, EXIM actually generates revenue for the government and at no cost to the American taxpayer. So this entity operates at no cost to the American taxpayer, but instead actually generates revenue and returns it to the Treasury. So I just wanted to make that point because I think it's an important one. So
yes,
we're here to help, but we do charge fees for our services. They're certainly competitive, and again, we don't compete with the private sector, but we complement the private sector. So if you can get a loan from a bank to support you, or insurance from a broker, that's great. But often cases in many markets, you need to have EXIM involved. So I just wanted to get that in there. And I guess in closing, for personal goals, I'll tie my personal goals back to my objectives while I'm here at EXIM, and that is just a couple of things. Traditionally, when board members come on, they're given regions, sectors, parts of the world, different areas to focus on. So I've spent a lot of time on the African continent and a little bit of time in the Middle East. So I'm grateful to Chairman Kimberly Reed, who has graciously offered me Africa and the Middle East as my territory to cover. But in addition to that, and more important for your listeners today, two things. I'd like to see the bank lean in a little bit more on the renewable energy and renewable resources sector. I'd like to see more U.S. manufacturers, if they're developing new tools, new technologies, new strategies, new ways of capturing energy through wind or solar or biomass, biofuel. I'd like to explore that, and I'm hoping to do that while I'm here. The second thing is women and minority-owned businesses. So much like small business, I'd like us to lean in a little bit heavier with women-owned and minority-owned businesses, and see if we can get them more interested in some of the international marketplace and places where they can go. We are committed to quadrupling the number of minority and women-owned businesses that we serve over the next 5 years.
Quadrupling, that is quite a goal, but a good one to have.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Judith. This has been an absolute pleasure having you speak with us. I am super looking forward to the forum. Again, that is on Wednesday, August 7th. Be sure to sign up for that if you have not already at cobrt.com/events. Click on August 7th. You can sign up for the Export Forum right there. Judith, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Alex, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.